All right, let's go and get going. Today we're going to talk about the difference between bundling fabrication and assembly in a turnkey order versus doing it yourself or doing various parts of it yourself. We're joined today by Advanced Assembly and Royal Circuit Solutions. Royal Circuit Solutions is a fabricator that's been in business for over 16 years, and Advanced Assembly is an assembly and fabricator that's been in business for 15 years. These are separate companies, but they do share some common interests, and they work really well together, but they aren't exclusive to one another. So if you want to use Advanced Assembly for your assembly and you want to use TTM for your boards, no problem. If you want to use Royal Circuit Solutions for your fab and you want to use Green Circuits for assembly, no problem either. You just have to let us know and figure out what makes sense for you and your budget. Anyhow, as we go through the webinar today, if you have any questions, please ask them in the Q&A box, question and answer box. Please do not use chat. This will be a relatively short webinar. We're anticipating about 30 minutes without questions. Feel free to ask them anytime you have them. If it's appropriate, we'll fit them in right there on the slide. And if not, we'll hold them to the end and we'll cover them at the end. With that, let's meet today's presenters, Elijah Gracia and Pat Farrell. Elijah, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for joining us today. My name is Elijah Gracia and I have been a CAM engineer here at Royal Circuits for the last 6 years. Aside from doing your DFM and DRC checks, I also do a lot of the special projects we have. So if you have some technology that maybe doesn't exist yet, or a problem that you have that you don't have a solution to, I'm part of the team that helps out in figuring out the solution and seeing how we can fabricate the impossible.
How did you come to Royal Circuits, Elijah?
Actually, there's a lot of families here, and my brother-in-law was in the accounting team, said we were hiring, checked it out, and I've been here ever since.
Well, hey man, we're happy to have you. Pat, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for everyone that's joining us today. As Mark mentioned, my name's Pat Farrell. I'm a sales manager here at Advanced Assembly. Started here about 11 years ago. Actually started on the production floor, doing everything from a little bit of everything from receiving to shipping, other things in the front office, quoting, purchasing, sales support type stuff. The last 7 or 8 years, been on the sales side. Work with half the country over here. So Advanced Assembly is in a small town right outside of Denver, Colorado. We specialize in all things printed circuit board assembly. Our main focus is rapid prototyping, as well as low to mid volume production.
All right, thanks, Pat. Elijah, I know you're not on the sales team, but do you know what Royal's focus is in the market?
Yeah, our market is quick turn prototypes. That's what we focus on, but we also take care of a little bit of everything else.
Okay, so when we're talking, quick turn prototypes, what quantities are we looking at? Any like as small as one?
Yeah, small as one, maybe a couple hundred, whatever it is, all the way up to maybe a couple thousand. After that, we'll talk about how we can get you more if that's your interest.
Pat, how about you? About the same quantities?
Yeah, absolutely. Our main prototype focus is on quantities 1 to 50. Obviously depending on complexity and the exact number of boards you need. We have the ability to do boards in as quick as 1 day, and then couple hundred, couple thousand. Whatever your next range production would be, we're there to help those needs as well. So everything from your initial prototype, get you off the ground running, and hopefully, as you're selling more and more of them, we can, facilitate those needs as well.
All right. Well, good to know. And thank you both for joining us here today. I appreciate it. So today, I just kind of wanted to go over the difference between, a complete DIY, where you're doing and sourcing everything yourself versus a turnkey order. And that's why we invited you here today, just to learn a little bit more about that. So if it's cool, let's go through what it would look like if we did everything. If I, as the engineer, did everything myself, organized everything, and then maybe we can talk about what it looks like if I don't, if I just say, hey, Pat, here's my credit card, go nuts. So with DIY, there's a lot of pain points to consider. Parts, fabrication, and assembly. Would either of you like to talk just briefly? We can get into these things in detail in a minute, but would you guys like to talk briefly about the three different sourcing issues?
Yeah, absolutely. I can talk about this a little bit, Mark. Obviously, there's two facets to getting your boards populated, manufactured, and assembled. Contracting with a company like us, letting us handle all the pieces for you. Or if you want to take the hands-on approach, the hassle, sometimes the headache, and buy everything yourself. So the DIY approach. So yeah, obviously you can go out to DigiKey, Mauser, maybe you or your company stocks components, put together a kit. Hopefully you've been in contact with your assembly provider up front, learning the type of package formats that they would optimally like to receive, as well as the overages that they would need for machine assembly. Kitting everything, getting your board sourced, and then shipping one box over to us, and we'll go through an audit and populate it. So there's definitely pluses and minuses to both. Certainly the DIY approach, you're responsible for everything. I think a great real-time example is today, obviously the weather that's moved through the country. I know one of the major FedEx hubs is in Memphis, and a large parts distributor, Mauser's in Texas. We're really struggling in getting shipments in this week. So on the DIY approach, we're going to wait for your parts and boards to come, and that's your day zero. And then we'll get started with your build turn time. Whereas when you go turnkey, we're obviously responsible for all those pieces. So whether it be weather delays or whatever might happen, it's on us to make up that time. With the order of 5-day assembly turn, maybe I have to turn it in just one day.
Wow, that would be intense. Do you guys do that often, like 1-day turns?
Yeah, absolutely. About every other day, if not every day. Not always is it because of a weather phenomenon like we're in today. We're gonna have a few more coming down the pike in the next couple of days, but that's the main reason why customers come to us. They typically needed boards yesterday or even before that. They're in a bind, and so that's our main specialty, is to get boards out quickly, so that you can hopefully debug, respin, or move to market faster.
That's nuts. I mean, I know of a couple projects we've done 1 day, but I assumed that was, special favors and large bills. I didn't know that was regular practice. That's crazy. How do you get the parts that fast?
Yeah, so we have a, obviously, if you're going the turnkey approach, you'd send us your BOM and your Gerbers. We have a custom software that we use on the front end that sources your BOM in real time. We have integrated API with the major parts distributors, so we're getting real-time pricing as well as real-time availability and stock numbers. And then we have a whole dedicated sourcing team that will go out to the other vendors of the world that maybe the DigiKey and Mausers don't have, and compiling this all together. So typically we can turn around a full turnkey quote in 24 hours, and a lot of times it's much less than that, especially a smaller BOM. It could be as little as under an hour. And then when you kick off a build, we're going to order all those parts right away and have them in-house next day. During that quoting process, if we run across any parts that do have a lead time, a minimum order quantity, whatever it might be, we're going to discuss all that up with you, discuss that all up front with you. So there's no surprises or game changers and delays, once you pull the trigger and move forward.
Wow, that's crazy. All right. Elijah, if I could pull you in real quick. You mentioned earlier DFM, you didn't say DFA. You said DRM and something else.
DRC, design rule
DRC.
check.
I'm sorry. I just remembered wrong. What do we have going for that?
Yeah, so that's actually a free service that we offer. Before when you're getting your quote, we can actually run a quick little DRC, which is a simple rule check. Make sure there's nothing hiding in your data that you might have forgot to mention, or extra things that we find. And yeah, once that's all processed, then we'll actually run a full DFM report after the order's been placed. But that's a huge help when you're still in your quote stage, just making sure that your files are as accurate as possible. That way we can avoid all those holds and delays.
Yeah, I've done that a couple times. and I've sent my files in for DRC, and I'm sure Heddle gets a good chuckle out of them. But it really has helped me catch some mistakes where I had my rules set up wrong, and I was going to end up, with like 1 mil airspace between a couple traces or something stupid, just because I made some change and it propagated out into my design software somehow, and I missed it, So I've used that, and it is. So how do we get that? I mean, I just send them right to Heddle, but I assume we go through sales.
Yeah, you go through a sales rep when you get your quote, and then that's when we run our DRC. Just as our standard. We also want to help you guys. It helps you guys out, and it also helps us just speed through things and find those little things and avoid our delays.
But we do that pre-quote too, don't we?
Yeah, we can definitely do that pre-quote.
Okay, so yeah, if you guys have a project out there and you just want a free DRC, we're not going to come harass you. Just email sales@royalcircuits.com, and we'll let you know if there's any issues. So, Pat, you said some companies send you their own parts.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is fine. We're specialize in consignment and turnkey. So a couple things I would recommend if you are ever going to supply your components is, a lot of times get in touch with your, us or your assembly provider early on in the process, even when you're just designing and developing the board. I've had a lot of clients that just send over a bomb and they're like, this isn't set in stone. I just want you to do a quick stock check. Or maybe you can do this on your own. If you do at any point in time discover, a part that might be running obsolete or has a long lead time, or maybe it's a custom part, go ahead and procure that up front, on your own, because we're going to run into the same issue as well. And then there's other times where you might want to supply your entire kit, and that's fine too. We will supply you with our optimal overage guidelines. Again, these are just guidelines. They're not set in stone. We're really flexible when it comes to components. We're unlike a lot of other facilities out there. We actually have a custom tray system where we can machine place loose components. So we cut trays for every job, whether it be 1 board, 50 boards, or 100 boards. Some jobs might get 1 or 2 trays. Some jobs might have, 5, 10, 15 trays. So all the parts that come in tubes or trays, or maybe they're just loose, or blister packs, whatever it might be, we'll actually open them up, put them in our custom trays, and then load these in our pick and place machines alongside the reels. And then speaking of reels, we don't require 5,000 piece reels with a long tape leader. We're very, very flexible. Obviously on the smaller components, 0201s, 01005s, 0402s, we would like a decent size continuous tape that we can load into the machine. Those are the posts that we're going to, lose the most of when we go to load it in the machine, as well as the machine spits out some parts occasionally. So having enough overage on those is very, very critical. The last thing we want to do is stop a build, mid-process and, have to wait for more parts. So if you're supplying the parts to us, in that case, or even at the initial audit stage, if we notice any discrepancy in your kit, whether it's a wrong part, a shortage, or a part that's missing, your build's going to entirely go on hold, and we're going to contact you immediately and wait for you to resolve it. Maybe you come back and have us DNI it, or you're going to drop ship us a part or send us more out of your inventory, and then your build will restart when we get it. On the turnkey side, all the time, we might order, a 10K resistor from DigiKey, and it comes in as a 100 ohm or, something similar but different. Well, we're not even going to contact you about that. We're simply just going to work that out with the vendor, get a new part in house, and then make up that lost day or two on our end. So certainly the communication piece when you are supplying components is extremely critical. I think you had up on the screen earlier, ESD protection, pre-baking, and things like that. We're in Colorado, so Mile High City, we don't have to deal with humidity too often. But if you're shipping us a part from Florida or one of the coasts that's been sitting around for a while, we'd want to know, how was it stored? Is this something that we would need to pre-bake beforehand, or whatnot? And the second thing I'd mention is, always addressing, your kit box to a particular job number. just makes things very, very streamlined on the back end. Our receiving team gets that box, they know exactly where it goes. Same thing if you're sending us a kit, maybe out of your own inventory, and you're, cutting strips off and putting them in your own little baggies. I've gotten kits in before where there's just kind of chicken scratch on the bag, and it's hard to decipher the reference designators, the descriptions, and the part numbers. So we can actually send you custom kit labels that you can slap onto the bags. Just makes the whole process easier.
Wow, I didn't even know we did that. Okay, I've got a question about ESD. I'm going to confess something from an engineer side of things. And then I've been to advanced assembly. I know when you go in there, everybody's wearing, the little, the coats, the ESD jackets. They're wearing the ankle grounding things. We're walking on ESD conductive, floor tile. Now, transfer that to what happens in most engineers' labs, especially now that they're working at home. They don't do anything for ESD. I mean, no coats, no jackets, no gloves, no wrist straps. They're just manhandling parts. How big a deal is ESD protection? I mean, can we really destroy our parts?
Yeah, absolutely. I imagine, in the COVID world with a lot of engineers working at home, your office is probably carpeted. You probably don't have an ESD mat on the floor, or wrist straps or heel straps. So one of the biggest differences that, I mentioned to all my customers when it comes to turnkey and consignment is not only, the difference in time and like I mentioned, the way the due dates work, whether it's us supplying it or you supplying it if something goes wrong. But here at Advanced Assembly, we have an unconditional warranty. And so at any point in time, I ship you boards, down the road, if you discover a manufacturing or assembly defect, we'll take it back. We'll pay for the shipping. We'll rework it if we can. We'll remake it if that's what needs to be, or we'll credit you for the board, whatever we need to do to make it right. So that's the difference, is when you go turnkey and we buy everything for you, we're completely responsible for it. So if, it is a consignment job and we populate it and you ship it to, or, we send it to you and you're doing your test and you say, U1 on my board isn't working. So maybe we'll take it back and look at it. We'll verify that soldering meets IPC standards and we did all our parts right. Maybe it's a bum part, or maybe it got shocked in, poor ESD storage. Unfortunately, that's going to be a rework. Costs a little extra money for us to replace it. Whereas if it's a turnkey job, we'll buy a new part, we'll put it on and take care of it 100%.
Interesting. Okay, cool. That's good to know. We talked about real liters a little bit versus optimal overages. Was there anything else you wanted to say about that, or should we just move on?
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing I can mention, again, we're not a large scale facility. Our machines are customized to run low volume, set up constantly. We have 6 lines in the back, and each one runs between 4 and 6 jobs a day. So there's a lot of turnover. So we're really, really flexible when it comes to component overages. So no need for super large reels. I know you mentioned liters. I know typically a DigiKey, you need 100 parts, and if you're getting it with a liter on there, they charge you a DigiKey reel, which is another $7 per line item, which can get a little bit ridiculous. So I always say on passives, stick in quantities of 50. You need 10, 20 pieces, order 50. You need 30, 45 pieces, bump that up to 100. Stick with that 50 piece, and then that always gives us that couple extra inches of tape, and that's all we need to load in our machines.
Yeah, sometimes it's cheaper to buy 50 than it is to buy 40, It's
absolutely
crazy like that. Okay, cool. Now, Elijah, let's say I have a board and I want a panel full of them. How do I go about doing that myself?
Yeah, so there's a few rules that we have for panelization, creating arrays, right? Basically, if your board's got some straight edges, there's a possibility that we can use scoring, which is basically, you think of a graham cracker, right? You cut a nice little V groove on the top and the bottom, and you're left with a little bit of material that'll snap off fairly easy. And then the other option would be breakaway holes or mouse bites, which is basically leaving a little tab of material and then punching that little tab with a few holes inside of it, making it it's fragile enough to break apart, but still rigid enough to keep the part held to the array. And if you want the best practice, I would say let us know how many boards up you want on an array. Let us do all the work. Let us create the array. We have some awesome software that can automate all that very quickly. And it's still going to have all the standard fiducials and mounting holes on the rails. Just give us your basic bare minimums, your dimensions. If you have a min-max dimension that you got to follow based on your assembly house, just let us know that. Let us take care of it. If not, if you're sending it, just know that arrays, if it's all V-score, like on the left image, we can actually score right on the line. You can have zero gap in between your boards versus something like if you're using tab route, if it has a little bit of an odd shape, it needs to be tab routed. We need about, I'd say 100 mils minimum space between each board. So it does take a little bit more space.
And then the copper setback from the board edge should be what, like 12 to 14 mil?
Yeah, V-score, good point. You're going to want to pull back the copper 12 mils from the board edge because you have to remember that little V groove is actually slightly protruding into your board outline.
Okay. And then I've had Chow on here before. And remind me of her title, Pat. Is she director of engineering or engineering manager?
Yeah, she is our engineering manager.
Engineering manager. And one of her pet peeves is when people panelize their own stuff is they forget that they still need unique reference designators. And if you panelize, typically you're just copy pasting. You have to index those reference designators, otherwise the pick and place machines get confused. You can't have duplicate line items essentially. So that's something that has to go and be fixed. But if you let them panelize for you, you don't need to worry about all that. But if you do want to do it yourself, get in contact with Chow and she can help you figure out how. And we can give you her email towards the end. So.
One other thing, Mark, real quick, that I would add to panelization is, for example, if I walked over to our operations manager right now and I said, what's the biggest showstopper on the floor, biggest headache that you have to deal with? And he would say consign boards and panelization. Because we are a quick turn shop, if you're supplying boards to us, we're going to go ahead and create all our programming and tooling right away. So on the prototype side, we use a paste printer. So we're not using a stencil, it's a paste printer, but we still need a file to apply the paste directly to the board. And countless times I get boards from customers and we might only be populating 5 or 10. And so we assume they're coming in as singles and they come in an array or some sort of a panel, which is fine. We can work with that, but it's a little bit more of a headache. We have to stop, restart. On the production end, same thing. We're using stencils on the production end. So we might have ordered a one-up stencil or a panelized stencil and get the boards in, the opposite of what we ordered the stencil for. And that's a showstopper for us. So I would always say anytime you're going to consign the boards, let us know what configuration they're in. Talk to your fabricator and get the working Gerbers or the panel files from them. It just makes our life a lot easier on the assembly end.
All right. I'm not going to walk over to your director of operations. You said if you walked over to him, what's the biggest showstopper? I think if I walked over to him, he'd punch me right in the nose, Pat. I had a bad panelization, man. It didn't go well on my last project at all. The thing turned into a potato chip. Oh, well. All right. So Royal Circuits and Advanced Assembly are in 2 different locations. Is there a reason for that, or why is it important? I mean, why aren't we just one big happy warehouse somewhere making boards and assembling them?
I would say go ahead, Elijah.
Yeah, one of the main reasons showing on this map right here, fabrication does need to be near raw materials since we're constantly ordering new raw materials. Same with assembly. You need to be near parts, right? And your outbound shipping, you want to have all that close by. That way you can get your customers' jobs started immediately and shipped out the fastest way possible. Good point that Pat brought up yesterday was you also don't want experts that are kind of dabbling in both fields. You want someone who's going to focus on your fabrication. A fab shop's going to do that. We're not going to dabble too much in assembly because that's not our area of expertise. You leave that to the assembly house, right?
I know a lot of shops out there that claim and specialize or claim that they specialize in a lot of areas, and it's difficult to be proficient at any and multiple things. So advanced assembly from engineering, operations, sales, everything, we're all tailored towards assembly. and everyone at Royal and on Elijah's team is tailored towards fabrication. And so I think keeping that common knowledge separately, keeping the footprint separately, the facility separate, it allows the experts to do what they're good at.
So what's the latest you guys ship, each of you?
Yeah, so here at Advanced Assembly, we're actually about 10 to 15 minutes from Denver International Airport. So we primarily like to ship with FedEx. Their pickup time is about 7:30 at night. And then with that proximity at the airport, if we miss the FedEx pickup, we typically have until 8, 9 o'clock to go to the FedEx hub at the airport and drop off a package. So it gives us a lot more time, a couple more hours in the day on the extremely quick turns to finalize that QA, wash process, depanelization, whatever those last few steps. We can take a little bit extra time, still give you the the quality you're after, and still get it to your dock the next day.
Huh, okay. Very cool. And Elijah, do you happen to know, or is that outside your scope of expertise?
No, yeah, we're just about 30 minutes from our closest major city, San Jose, California. And from there, we can get everything shipped out overnight. We have drivers that are constantly making deliveries in our Bay Area. So it's not a problem at all to get things shipped out immediately. We also have a lot of people who work or live over there in San Jose and commute over here. So there's always a way to get it as fast as possible to the airport or just get it shipped out. We also use couriers, whatever helps us meet those deadlines.
One of the other great reasons why Advanced Assembly loves partnering with Royal and ordering our boards from them is on those super quick turns in our location is sometimes they won't be finished to meet their shipping cutoff, but they can work through the night and then super early in the morning drive it to the airport, put it on Southwest Cargo, and we can still get it the next morning. We'll drive down to the airport, pick them up, and start assembling. So the proximity to our locations, proximity to airports, things like that, that's how we can get rapid turns, same days, 1 days, turned around effectively and efficiently.
Very cool. All right. Now, Elijah, you said something about raw materials. You guys are pretty close. Where does Royal get their stuff?
Yeah, we have a few vendors here in the Bay Area. Again, it's just a 30-minute trip to get that. They'll usually come drop it off for us since we order so much material weekly. We keep a huge stock. This is the first way we stay on top of our customer base, right? Keeping those miracle turns. You just want to have the right materials on stock, ready to go as soon as the order comes in. So this is a picture in our material room, and this is actually just one of maybe 10 shelves the same size. And we keep about $1 million worth of material on our shelves at all times. A lot of our vanilla flavors, FR4 type materials. And we also keep a lot of the rare stuff, anywhere from 1/4 ounce all the way up to about 7 ounce copper weight we have on hand at all times. Panasonic materials, high heat, whatever it is you need, we probably have it in stock ready to go. Anything we don't have here, again, 30-minute trip, we can also find that rare stuff maybe you don't know about. And again, this whole webinar is about Turnkey, right? Just basically you type in or check the box of what material you need and we'll find it. We'll figure out all the other stuff. Don't worry about it. We'll let you know just how fast we can get it if we don't already have it.
So if I want something like, I don't know, 1/2 ounce copper, 1080 pre-preg or whatever, we just grab it off the shelf. But if I want to go get maybe like a Teflon core 1/4 ounce, that's something you have to go get from a supplier. How long does that take to get?
Most of the time they have it in stock and we can get it same day. We see our vendors here just about every day. They'll come and take trips for us. And even a good example, today I just came across a board that's FR408 HR material, 125 mils thick, which is pretty thick, and it's using 3 ounce copper.
Wow.
It's not a fun board to try and find material for. I know it's not out there, but we were able to call our vendor and they're actually going to make it for us, which is really cool.
Crazy. All right. Well, that's good to know too.
Yeah, and we should have it in about a week, which isn't bad at all considering they're actually fabricating material for us.
Yeah, and that's where Japan?
I'm not sure where they're building it. I can get that info for you.
It's okay. I was just curious. Don't Don't spend time on it, buddy. You're busy. You're busy.
A
Okay,
little bit.
so I've heard many times before that AA is not a contract manufacturer. I'm going to be honest with you, Pat. I don't really know what a contract manufacturer is. So when people tell me that AA is not a contract manufacturer, yay. I mean, why is that a big deal? Is it a big deal? So maybe you could first start telling me what a contract manufacturer is, and then tell me how a manufacturer is different from one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone has their own perception or ideas of contract manufacturers. When I typically think of a contract manufacturer, I'm thinking of a Jabil, Sanmina, Flextronics, places like those. Those companies, they specialize in a lot of stuff. They don't do low volume well. Their main focus is to set up and run a machine and sit back and let it run. They're after high volume. For example, I've worked with one of these factories in the past. They outsource a lot of prototypes with us. And I asked them about, their new customer development and what it takes to get new customers. And they said that they have a minimum cap on any customer of a $2 million annual spend. Well, I can tell you in the prototype world, a lot of our clients that we work with, not a lot of them have $2 million that they're going to spend right away. So yeah, we're not a contract manufacturer. In fact, we're completely the opposite. We've got about 115 employees here at Advanced Assembly. About 45% of our staff is in the front office, from myself in sales, purchasing, quoting, customer support, engineering, administration and things like that. All these people are dedicated to customer support, customer development, resolving issues, holds, answers quickly and efficiently, helping you, tweak a design to get it, more manufacturable. All these pieces we're dedicated to, the customer support aspect, as well as the extremely fast turn with exceptional quality.
Okay. What's first article service? Because I've heard about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I always recommend a first article, especially when you're building a brand new board. And maybe you're pretty confident in the design and layout. You think everything's going to work out really well, but maybe there's one or two new parts that you'd never used before, and so you're a little hesitant on I don't know, maybe the voltage or the footprint or whatever. So let's say you need 10 or 15 boards, whatever the quantity might be. We'll secure the materials for that full lot you need, but we'll expedite the turn and just populate a handful of them for you so that you can test them out. And that way you can come back to us, and if you need to make a part change, maybe a rotation change, leave a part off, whatever it might be, we can implement that on the next batch or the balance of the build, as opposed to completely buying a new kit, buying new boards and what have you. Especially we were talking about panelization earlier. Typically board houses are going to charge you for an entire panel. So, if your board's, let's say 5 inches by 5 inches, and you think you only need one board, to test out, but you might need 10 or 15 later, well, you're probably going to get that entire lot on one panel anyway. So you might as well, buy it up front, have those boards, run a first article. Hopefully it works for you, as opposed to doing, 2 different articles, 2 different releases, paying, that setup fee twice, the tooling charges, minimum, lot fees and stuff like that twice. So I definitely recommend the first article for testing out new boards.
And that's free. So like if I place an order for, let's say 200 boards, and I say, give me 5 of them, and then I make some changes, I don't have to pay the NREs again?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're completely respinning the board, footprints and everything are changing, that might be a little bit different. But if you're just changing a couple parts, we're just going to charge you whatever that, the additional material is on the few parts you changed. But yes, there is no additional charge for that second setup. It's all going to be encompassed for the 5 and for when you get to the 195.
Got it. Okay. All right. Now, what about parts, Pat? I asked earlier, how you guys are able to do one-day builds, and you told me a little bit about your distributors, like Mouser in Texas and DigiKey. How are you able to get these parts so dang fast?
Yeah, that's what's great with both these facilities and the amount of volume that we're buying from them. typically some parts we're going to get a little bit of a better price break than you are just because of the sheer volume that our company is buying from these facilities. We also have a dedicated team at both DigiKey and Mauser that work directly for us. So they're able to, help us, find substitutes if we can't find a part, facilitate our quoting when maybe, pricing might not be readily available on their website. They also accept orders from us very late in the day and still ship and drop on our dock the next day. So they work really, really well with us. For example, when we're running boards in the back, if we ever ran across a shortage or a wrong part or whatever, we always place one order at the end of the day, and it's our holds box. And they know to ship that to us early AM. It has a special identification on the box. So at 6:30 in the morning or whenever early AM comes in, receiving knows, this is my box. I'm going to go get it, take it out on the floor, and keep us running. So our relationship with these vendors certainly help on the rapid prototyping side and flexibility in achieving everyone's end goal and keeping customers happy.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you so very much. Let's open it up to some questions if anybody's around. I see some of the Teach Me PCB participants have joined us today. Well, welcome. What questions as engineers do you have about turnkey versus DIY or anything in between? Go ahead and ask them in the question and answer. Also, I'd like to apologize for the noise while you were talking, Pat. That was my cat, Fat Ollie, voicing his displeasure that his bowl is only 1/3 full.
Well, that's all right. I think in the virtual world that we're in the last year, we're used to distractions, especially on phone calls and video calls these days.
Absolutely. All right. Again, are there any questions that either Pat or Elijah can answer for you about anything? It doesn't even have to be about this particular webinar. If you have any questions regarding fabrication or assembly, we've got them on for a little bit. Okay, well, while we're waiting for some people to think up some questions, let me ask you guys, what is the craziest project that you've ever seen go through each of your shops?
Ooh, that's an easy one for, go ahead.
Here at Advanced Assembly, I can remember it was just last year, or maybe it was the year before. We had a customer that needed boards super, super fast. It was the first time they'd ever used us. So they flew in on a private jet. We had ordered their parts kit the night before. So they landed at about 10 o'clock in the morning. They delivered the bare boards to us, so we got those back to production. So they started populating the boards. We went to lunch with the customer, had a couple-hour meeting, and then we're giving them a tour of the facility. And about 4 o'clock that afternoon, we landed on the shipping department, and there were the boards fully populated on a rack. So that's extremely fast in just 6 hours, but it can be done. I always do tell customers, and maybe it's a great time for me to say this, is if you are ever, taking us up on one of our rapid turns, please make yourself available to us, whether that be, checking emails constantly throughout the day or giving us a cell phone number or a text line that we can message to. So in the event we have any question at all, a placement question, whatever it might be, we don't have to stop and pull your boards off the production line and wait for you to respond. We can get an answer real time and continue on.
Okay. And then Elijah, while you think of your answer, we do have 2 questions and they look like they are for Pat. So the first question is this: is there a special assembly development? Does that work for you, such as mixed assembly BGA? I'm afraid I don't quite understand that. Do you, Pat?
Maybe. I can tell you we place BGAs all the time. It doesn't matter to us if they're on one side of the board or both sides of the board. Part of one of our standard procedures here is X-ray on all bottom termination and leadless components, including BGAs. So we do inspect them for make sure all the balls collapse and correct solder joints and everything like that. Not sure if that answers the question, but hopefully it helps. If not, my email address is on the screen. Please reach out to me, and I'd be more than happy to discuss that further.
So, anonymous attendee, your name's not showing. We have no way to contact you. If you need some refinement on that answer, please email pat@aapcb.com because I'm not sure we quite understand your question completely. All right, and second question, Pat, is ICT, that's in-circuit testing, offered on assembled boards? What other e-tests are offered?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do not have in-circuit testing here at Advanced Assembly. However, all the boards we order from Royal on the bare board side are going to be fully electrically tested. Those are only the ones that we'll populate on. Here on the assembly side, we do have flying probe test. It does add a couple extra days, and we need your ODB++ files. But that's certainly something we can do to, electrically certify your boards once parts are put down. We also are open to functional testing. So if you have functional test equipment, software instructions, whatever that you can provide to us, we can certainly facilitate that for you. Otherwise, all our boards run through our standard procedure. I mentioned X-ray earlier. We have AOI, which all boards go through, and then visual inspection at the end, ensuring that our boards are built to spec and solder joints and everything meet the IPC standards and the class that you ordered, whether it's class 2 or class 3.
I'll also offer, Adam, that in our podcasts last year, we met Joe Selvik of Fixturefab, Fixturfab, I believe it is. And he offers some pretty inexpensive ways to get started in testing your own boards, inexpensive test fixtures. And when I say inexpensive, we're talking, hundreds of dollars, not tens of thousands. So if you have a small batch job, if you'd like to either email me, Mark, let's use the official one, mhughes@aapcb.com, or check our archives at aapcb.com/blog and look for Fixturefab. You'll learn a little bit more about that. Really neat stuff that I really like what those guys are doing. So I hope that helps, Adam. We've got a question. Do you provide a service to check the BOM before quoting for component availability and OBS?
Yes, absolutely. And I highly recommend that. The last thing I want is you to come to me and say, I need boards right away, and I sourced your BOM, and, we've got a part that's, out of stock or whatever. So we certainly do have a tool on our website. I think it's, the main page, aapcb.com. You can upload files right then and there, or you can contact any of our sales reps. Send over a BOM. We'll load it into our system for you and get back to you right away. Obviously, we can give you pricing, but then we can also give you a list of, any parts that have a long lead time, minimum order quantity, or might be obsolete or extremely back ordered.
All right. I think this one is also to you, Pat. I guess nobody loves Elijah. Sorry, Elijah.
It happens.
So the question, it's a translation. It's, how is sending extras in DIY, how much work is it, and what should we have to keep in mind when ordering?
Yeah, I would say, contact us up front, get our overage guidelines. Depending on how many boards we're building, we focus our attrition rates based on the package size. So an 0201 is different than a 1206 or, a diode or a through-hole part. We also take into account, the cost of the components as well. So as far as attrition rates and stuff like that, certainly, get in touch with us, get that information from us and set up a quote correctly. Because the last thing we want to do is, you send us exact parts or just a few extras and we lose a couple parts, then we're having to pull a job off the machine, contact you, wait for new parts, and then rerun or potentially hand place them later. So I hope that answered, your question. We certainly recommend the turnkey route, but don't shy away from consignment, in the event it, is more beneficial for you. I always tell all my customers, you have three things to choose from, price, quality, and speed, and you can't have all three. So, we're happy to quote full turnkey for you and show you what the breakdown is. We can even show you what the most expensive components are. Maybe it'd be more beneficial for you to supply those. At the end of the day, remember, here at Advanced Assembly, we're extremely flexible. We're here for you to succeed and, ultimately be solution providers. So certainly have that dialogue with us, and we're more than happy to help.
All right. Thank you so much. We've got a question here I think I can answer. Question is, what if I have an outdated design? Some of the parts may be out of production, may need substitutes. There's no longer a copyright for these prior designs. We're not infringing right. You just want to know if you can make an old board. And I'll answer, contact us, because sometimes we have to make old boards, say for military. You have a board that was designed in the 1980s, and it's cheaper just to go out and find those old materials than to get a new design recertified in the military. And that's something that we do, but you need to contact us because there's going to be a lot of specifics that we're going to need to know before you get a thumbs up or thumbs down. Anything anybody wants to add to that?
Yeah, I would say we do have a lot of component companies that we work with and contacts that's all they do is specialize in finding older components, whatever it might be. So yeah, certainly ask. We'll exhaust our resources and see what we can do to help you.
Okay. Next question. What is the average turnaround time for boards that require rework when it comes to turnkey assembly?
So is the question, we build boards for you and you need rework on them afterwards?
That's the way I'm interpreting it.
Okay, so yeah. We do have a full team dedicated here for rework. I mean, obviously rework is part of the normal assembly process, part shift in the reflow oven, so on and so forth. But we do have a lot of customers, especially in our local customers here in Colorado, that drop off boards to us. Maybe they need a new BGA put on, a new flavor of a component, whatever it might be. I would say the turn times are the same as our assembly turn times. So we'll take a look at, what all you need. We can do it same day, one day. Some more difficult things might take 3 or 5 days. So certainly all the turn times are options. Get in contact with us, let us know what you need, and we're there to help you.
Yeah, I would add too, they're going to try to fix the problem as quickly as humanly possible. But if they have to go out and get a part, that's going to add a little time. So
one more thing I might add to that, Mark, is anytime, and I know all our clients are up to time constraints, but if for some reason you do get boards from us and you notice an issue, whether it might be your error or our error, contact us right away. We might be able to, fix that right the next day for you. The last thing we want is, you to try and rework it. Maybe you don't have all the tools and equipment and experience like we do with our rework station. The last thing we want to do is for you to rip off a pad or damage it further. So certainly contact us and know that we can do those things super, super fast.
All right. Next question is, do you have a preferred format for documentation or an Altium template? So I think they're asking, do we prefer Draftsman? Would we rather just have PDFs, assembly drawings? What kind of documentation do we want for fab and assembly?
So at least here on the assembly side, if you have a fabrication and an assembly drawing, we'd love those in a PDF format, text file. The formatting on a drawing doesn't really matter. The bill of materials, we would love it in Excel. That's certainly going to load right into our software and streamline the quoting process up front, also mitigate errors and risks and things like that. So a BOM in Excel, as long as we have a manufacturer's part number, description, reference designators. If you have alternates, certainly list those as well. That's always helpful. And then the Gerber files, I think that question is more for Elijah. I know on our end, we can work with Gerber file in RS-274X format, as well as ODB files. And also, don't forget the pick and place file. I know that's one that's commonly left out, but we do need that on the assembly end.
Elijah, you still with us?
Yes, sir. Same exact answer. We prefer that PDF format, although text document's fine if that's all you have available. Just get those specs on there. I've even seen handwritten notes, which will make me laugh, but gets the same info across, right?
Yeah, and as far as it goes, I mean, I can't speak enough praises about Altium and Draftsman. It's just makes an engineer's life so much easier. Another question, is there a process for older date code components like solder test or pre-baking? For example, sensors that have been hard to find and broker stock is usually old. So how do we deal with old parts?
Yeah, absolutely. So we only buy from brokers when it's customer directed. So if we've quoted a job for you and we send you a list of parts that for whatever we can't find, and you're like, well, I don't have any options, what can you do for me? I'm going to suggest, hey, I've got a lot of contacts. I can go out to brokers and on the gray market and get parts in. We're typically only using brokers that we have a great relationship with, that are ISO certified, that we know that they do background checks on components. But one thing we will do on our end is we will pre-bake those parts when they come in, just because we don't know how they were stored.
All right. Well, with that, gentlemen, I've certainly appreciated all of your time, and I would like to thank all of the participants who joined us today. It's been a lot of fun. I've learned quite a bit, and this is being recorded, the whole webinar. It will be on, I assume, Royal Circuit's website within a day or two, but it might end up on AA's as well. We'll see. There's a ton of information over there. We've done a lot of other webinars. If you have suggestions for additional webinars, please feel free to contact sales@aapcb.com and they'll get in touch with me to organize them. All of our webinars are customer directed. So somebody asked, what's the difference between turnkey and DIY? So we throw some slides together, bring in some experts, and try to get the answers for them. And hopefully this was the answers, or at least get them started along the path that they need to find the answers they're looking for. All right, everyone, thank you so very much. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and we'll see you at our next webinar. Take care. Bye.